Hi, Davi here, and today we have a new episode in the art process series. And today we'll be doing an overview of my last art session, and I basically did a bunch of faces, all in all three. And it did start obviously with the lasso fill tool. I actually like the initial sketch a bit more, but it happens. I did have reference, and I did purposely use reference because trying to do things from imagination is just too hard for me, and I think it's because obviously if you don't have that visual library and that muscle memory, you're not gonna be able to create stuff from memory really well. So I think the best thing to do, if you're planning or if you want to be able to make things from imagination, is to really put in the time, put in the mileage to gain that experience, and you have to use reference. I think this is pretty common advice, but oftentimes I scoff at this sort of thing because maybe it's a pride thing or maybe there's a bit of a impatience there. But yeah, anyway, so I was trying to use the lasso fill to do this sketch. I did have difficulty a bit. I was using my Wacom Intuos Pro S, so it's a pen tablet, not a pen display. And I did notice that I had to kind of slow down when using the tool. If I'm using my pen display, my XP Pen 22E Pro, I am a bit faster with the lasso fill tool, but with the pen tablet, I am a bit slow. And it's kind of, I did learn that it's not bad to be a bit slow when you're making or doing art or studying, because I think I have a habit of just rushing into things. It's not bad if you have that energy, if you feel like you want to really just go for it, and and you feel like you're going to lose something if you don't just jump in, then fine. But sometimes I think it's nice to just slow down a bit and just focus on, doing something one stroke at a time, and not rushing to get to the next stroke. I was planning to do just the black and white, I think, and then eventually I decided to add some extra gray values in between to just add a bit more to the black and white, because I think it's kind of boring sometimes. And here I think I fell into the trap of trying to copy the reference. And you can tell I was trying to squint the eyes a bit more, and I think I eventually tried to use the liquify tool. Yeah, you can see me do it now. And I was really trying to copy the reference. That wasn't the intention. I just wanted to use the reference to sort of guide me, but it's so easy to fall into that trap of forcing your work to kind of be the reference. Now, I did do a little better with the second and third sketch or illustration. And I think after this, the second sketch, I did try to use the lasso fill, but I eventually just quit because it was too hard, and I just felt like it was becoming too tight. And even for this sketch, it is a bit tight, and the bottom part of the chin, sorry, is supposed to be in shadow, but it looks like she has a beard. So that sucks. Although from afar it looks pretty good, so anyway, if you zoom in, you'll see the not so good stuff. And I think it's good to not zoom in too much, to focus more on the bigger picture. And now you can see me try to start this sketch with the lasso fill tool. Now, what sucks about this, or when I was doing this, I felt that I was again copying the reference, like 1:1. And so I decided to just stop using the lasso fill tool and change to a basic opaque kind of brush, with hardly any opacity. So in that way I can fill in large areas and just be more bold with my strokes. And by the way, I did put everything, or this whole layer, under a grayscale layer property. So it doesn't matter what color I pick, it will always come out as gray. And I think for right now, it was kind of or in this session, it was a good idea, because sometimes the colors can get in the way, so anyway, as you can see, I was so struggling so hard with the lasso fill tool. And maybe again, it's also because I was using my pen tablet, but eventually, as you can see, I did switch to a more opaque brush to kind of paint in. And I also did realize that a good way to use reference without copying it is to think of caricature. So this guy is actually the guy I'm sketching now is, or as you can see, is Homelander from the Boys series. Now it's kind of hard to tell from the beginning, but eventually you can kind of see that it's a caricature of that guy. And I think by thinking of that mindset, or having that mindset of caricaturizing, is that a word? Your reference, I think that's a better mentality, or it sets a tone for your stroke making. Like whenever you draw or paint or add in your marks, like you're not thinking of copying things 1:1. Like you don't default to that thing if you think of caricature, right? So what you're doing is essentially trying to get the likeness of your reference, and I think that's very different from copying your reference. So obviously this is from the scene where he's kind of staring, because I forgot her name, the chick with the southern accent, the one with the milkers, right? He does have kind of a fetish for that thing. Anyway, so that's him kind of peeking over and seeing that thing kind of pop out of nowhere. And yeah, I was able to at least capture that, and I was so happy with this session, or with this specific piece, because I was able to use a reference without copying the reference. So if you're struggling with this whole, like when you have references on the side, like you end up being so tight with your work because all you're doing is kind of just copying the thing, I think having a mindset of you're trying to just make a caricature of the thing, you're trying to make a shorthand version of the thing, you're trying to just capture the likeness of that thing. I think that's a better way to sort of frame your following like strokes, whether drawing, painting, sculpting. And I think in the last sketch, I did a mini one to kind of end the session, right? And I basically just copied or followed the process I did with this sketch, with the second sketch or painting, and I was able to follow through with it. And I think this is a good sort of mindset to have, just thinking of things in terms of caricature, right? And it really helps, I think, if you're someone who's struggling with using or being able to use reference creatively, right? It's often an issue because we get stuck. Sometimes you don't even even though you start things with the intention of not wanting to copy something, eventually, if you're not paying attention, you will end up trying to force your own drawings, your own paintings to be exactly like the reference you have with you. So just think of caricature. Think of trying to create a shortcut, or think of trying to capture the likeness of a specific likeness of that something in your reference. And yeah, do this in grayscale just to keep it simple. And I do recommend trying to use a more opaque brush. You don't have to, but I think it's just faster. So it's kind of like the lasso fill, where you can just block in areas with just massive, no opacity, just full shapes very quickly. And yeah, so you can see me sort of build up the guy here. Now in the reference photo, the guy did have, I'm not sure if his neck is that thick, or maybe his polo shirt is just that tight, but he had a big neck. And I was happy. I was basically just doing the thing I learned from the second sketch, just focusing on the big shapes, trying to caricaturize. I'm just making my own word here, or cartoonize in a way, the reference photo. And I think I was able to do a good job. And oftentimes, it's going to look kind of realistic as well, right? But starting with that mindset of you're just trying to capture the likeness instead of the actual thing, I think that's a better way to use reference. So yeah, I mean, I do recommend you just have a pure file with you where you just dump a bunch of photos that you find interesting whenever you're like scrolling through Twitter or X or whatever platform. It's just nice. You can like download memes or any kind of naughty stuff, right? And you can just dump it all there, and it's a good reference board to have. Just a bunch of random things that you personally find fun. So yeah, so that's it for this art kind of process video, and hopefully it helps in some way. Bye.